Welcome back to the Neutral Zone. Today we're going to be covering the 2023 Oklahoma Sooners season. Obviously, continuing on with our recap series. If you guys are new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe to the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. We do have our next live show coming Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be giving away a signed Tim Tebow jersey. So please stick around for that. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss when we go live. Again, that's at 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. Dad, how do you feel about Oklahoma and their season?
I think we both were really high on them. I had them battling Texas for that Big 12 championship. So the fact that they didn't even make the Big 12 championship game is a little disappointing. But when you go back and you look at the 2022 season, and that was a season that really went bad for Brent Venables and the team, this obviously is a big jump. 10-3 and is not a bad season. It is not a bad season at all. Maybe not in lines with Oklahoma standards, especially under that Lincoln Riley model. They were losing maybe 1-2 games a year. So, but overall, the jump that we seen with Brent Venables, we saw the difference. And I think the ability to have a full offseason, to get a full recruiting class, brought in Dylan Gabriel, I think you've seen the improvements. You've seen what he can be as a coach and what this program can do. Not all the way there yet. And they have some tough things going in the future. As you guys probably know, Dylan Gabriel's gone to Oregon. So now we're in the Arnold era. We'll see what he is as a starting quarterback for this team. They have some pieces that I think are concerning. I think Stoops is back, almost 1,000-yard receiver. So this is going to be a little bit tough sledding because I thought Dylan Gabriel meant so much to this team. I think he was the heart and soul, the leader of this team. So the fact that you see him now move on to Oregon may be a little tough for them to overcome, especially as they move to the SEC. The SEC is going to have a bunch of very good teams. Obviously, Oklahoma can recruit at a high level, but I think if you had to look in the scope of things based off of SEC recruiting, they may be a little bit behind. And I only mean that in the upper echelon, upper tier teams. So I think they're going to have a little tough sledding going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they take a small dip next year. But overall, this season, I thought you can call that a success. You can call that much better than the 2022 season. What's your thoughts?
I agree. So obviously I was very high on them as well. Oklahoma was my pick to win the Big 12. I know they, like you said, they didn't make the Big 12 title game. Take this with a grain of salt. Because obviously, what I'm going to say, people are going, you might even combat this, but I'm going to say it's not really their fault. They beat the Big 12 champion, and obviously things just didn't fall in line at the end of the year. They needed someone to lose. I think they needed Oklahoma State to lose to somebody, and it's crazy because Oklahoma State was actually down by double digits in that game, came back and won to kind of get their bid to the Big 12 title game. So I don't knock them too much for that. They were 6-6 after the regular season last year. And they ended up with 10 wins this year. So I think it's a much improvement, a major win for Brent Venables. Obviously, I'm a Clemson guy, so I'm going to stand tall for him regardless. But you lose Dylan Gabriel. Yes. Jackson Arnold did not look great against Arizona in the bowl game. He threw 3 interceptions in that game, so that was not a great start. You lose Caden Green, who is your best offensive lineman, to the portal, to Mizzou. Obviously, Mizzou's on the rise. And then you bring over Deion Burks from Purdue, who had a decent season at a smaller school in the Big Ten. But he's probably going to be one of their go-to guys kind of this year, as well as Stoops. So it's going to be interesting to see how Oklahoma looks this year, just because Dylan Gabriel was their everything. Obviously, he was a Heisman contender at one point in the year, early in the year, midway through the season after beating Texas. And you lose him to Oregon. Brent Venables already isn't an offensive mind as it is. He's more of a defensive guy, as you guys would know, based on his history. So I don't think he's going to be able to kind of retool an offense and make them more than what they were last year. If anything, they're going to take a step back. And again, that's not me hating on Oklahoma. I just think that's the reality of the situation. I think their defense could be improved. Obviously, you bring over an edge rusher from Miami of Ohio and Caden Woolard. But again, small school coming to the coming to the SEC now. So it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out. But I think overall, I don't see a world where they're going to be competing for a playoff spot this year. I think the SEC is so loaded right now with the Georgias. Even LSU's losing some, but they're still going to have more talent. You have Missouri, who's on the rise, Alabama, Tennessee, who we recapped yesterday. So I just think there's a lot of good teams in the SEC. Obviously Texas. So I just don't see a world where Oklahoma is going to be competing for that 12-team playoff this year. I think Brent Venables still have some work to do. I could see them getting to that 9 or 10 win mark after a bowl game next year for sure. But like I said, I think losing Dylan Gabriel is going to be massive. And I know Jackson Arnold was a high recruit coming out of high school,
Yeah,
but
that's what I was going to say.
I just don't know if he's going to be able to have that sort of production in the SEC now on a team that lost, key pieces at Oklahoma. So I'm kind of interested to see how that pans out. But what is your kind of, I know we're not previewing technically, but
Yeah.
do you think this team can fare in the SEC as constructed?
So really what this is going to be is the story of Jackson Arnold and what he can be. My concern, just like you just mentioned, he did throw 3 interceptions against Arizona. If you're throwing 3 interceptions against Arizona, what do you do against the Georgias, the Alabamas, teams with elite defenses? But there's some positive takeaways. He did throw 361 yards. Obviously, he had about a month of practice to kind of get himself ready to play in that bowl game. I think you give him a full offseason where he knows he's going to be the starting quarterback. They get the offense set and ready for him, and maybe we'll see some improvement. Like you mentioned, he was a high recruit. This was a big name get for them. So you would at least think that the potential is there. It's just, can he actually take advantage of that potential? And if he can, because we saw with Dylan Gabriel, they were in every game. You're talking about a team that, and I'll take the bowl game out, you're talking about a team that in their regular season lost 2 games by a total of 8 points. And was able to beat Texas, a team that played in the playoffs. So this was a good team.
Definitely.
I think if they were bringing Dylan Gabriel back, we'd probably be talking about them in that 12-team playoff. So if Jackson Arnold, with all the ability and all the potential, can kind of replicate what Dylan Gabriel did last year, if he can be that kind of leader, if he can kind of figure out college football, I think they can be in that conversation. Would I put them there now based off of that Arizona game that I saw and the 3 interceptions? Maybe not. But I'll say I kind of want to see. I want to see how he looks as they start out the season. This is one of those. This is probably going to be one of those teams during our preview that I'm probably going to have a wide margin of their floor versus their ceiling, because I think there is some ability there if Jackson Arnold can be a really good high-level college quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. That is a fair take to say that, the optimism level has to be pretty high with him being a higher recruit. But again, so I'm just going to kind of give you some of their key games next year. They play Tennessee at home, which obviously Tennessee is losing some. They're bringing in a brand new quarterback as well. So I think that's a winnable game. You play Texas. Obviously, Texas has one of the most complete rosters. We talked about them a few days ago.
They're going to be tough.
You play at Ole Miss, at Missouri, at LSU, and then you host Alabama. When you're looking at, all of those teams, obviously outside of Missouri, because I think Missouri still has a little bit to prove. Obviously, they had the 1 year where you were really good. You finished in the top 10, but I'm not going to call Missouri a scary matchup for Oklahoma because I think they can match up with them well. But I think when you look at Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama, and LSU, those are 4 teams that concern me for Oklahoma. And even Tennessee a bit, but I think that's a winnable game as well. All of these games are quote unquote winnable, but I'm just saying as an Oklahoma fan, if you're an Oklahoma fan, those games should concern you because you have 6 games on your schedule that are really tough games. So it would be amazing to see this, team get to 9 to 10 wins again. Again, I'm a huge Brent Venables guy, but it's going to be very, very hard. We're obviously going to dive a little bit deeper when we do the preview series, but I think overall, like you said, was a great year for Oklahoma. And this program and kind of keep building on the Venables era. Again, he's a defensive mind. He's not an offensive kind of coach. So the defense is always going to be there, but with questions now surrounding Jackson Arnold, with the performance he displayed. Again, I'm not saying that's the quarterback he is. Everybody has bad days. So I'm not saying that's the quarterback he is. But that's the only kind of first bit of sample size we have out of him. He does play Temple, Houston, and Tulane to start the year next year. Tulane is obviously not a cakewalk. But those 3 games will be able to kind of tell who he is as a quarterback and what this team is in general. So looking forward to that. But Dad, what is do you have anything else to kind of say about this Oklahoma team and kind of your expectation for them? Or
no, like I said, Oklahoma is a blue blood team. You mentioned 4 games. I would say that Ole Miss Alabama game, I'd probably call those losses. The rest of those games, and I would even take the Texas game. I think the Texas game, I think Texas is a better team, but we've talked about this before. Rivalry games are different, right? Rivalry games are different. I think Texas was probably a little bit of a better team this year, and Oklahoma was able to find a way to get that win. So that one can be a toss-up. The other games are kind of out there for you, right? So this could possibly be another 9-10 win season. You're recruiting, the players that you have on your team should be able to match up at an Oklahoma. Again, this is to me what I would call a true blue blood college football program. This is one of the big name college football programs in all of the nation. So your recruiting should be on par, on level with any other team. It's just a matter of these guys actually getting out there and performing. And like I said, they're bringing back some talent. They had a 700, 800 yard freshman running back that's coming back, Gavin, and I'm not even going to try his last name. So there's talent there. There's talent there. I think in the end, the story of 2024 is going to be Jackson Arnold, but the story of 2023 was Dylan Gabriel. He had a really good season, played masterful football again, led them to, again, where we're talking about 2 losses in their regular season by less than 5 points. The KU one kind of concerned about, but the Oklahoma State, that game went back and forth. It could have went either way. I think this is a major step up, like we mentioned, from 6-6. I think Brent Venables is kind of getting his footing as a college football head coach.
Yes, and just to kind of round out this episode or this recap, Oklahoma did have based on 24/7 Sports, they had the number 5 recruiting class in 2023, and they have the number 9 recruiting class in 2024. So Brent Venables, obviously 2 back-to-back top 10 classes. He's doing something right, obviously. So I think that's going to play a huge factor in this year. Obviously, all those guys are going to be very young, so you have a young team, but excited to see the ceiling. And obviously when we do the preview, we're going to talk about that. But as always, if you're new to the channel, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss an upload. We do have our live show coming Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Please show up for that. So you got to get a chance to win the signed Tim Tebow jersey. And we also have tomorrow's video where we're going to be recapping the Arizona Wildcats. We talked about them a bit in this episode. So make sure you guys stick around for that. We'll see you guys then. Peace out.